So while I was demonstrating various question types, some of you may have noticed there's an import button here. And if you've already got a series of questions that maybe you've traditionally offered on paper, if you've already got those in a Word document, you may be thinking, hoping, crossing your fingers that this import button here will allow you to take all of those Word documents and upload to the system and have those be converted into questions, multiple choice or multi-select or true or false. And unfortunately, that's not the case. There's no direct way to take a Word document and upload it and have that be converted into questions. But I have some good news, because there is a custom tool that we've been working on here in the Online Learning Center to smooth that process out a little bit. It still does require some manual formatting, but it's a pretty good middle step for getting your Word documents online. So first of all, before we talk about that conversion tool, you'd be looking at potentially taking your Word document, right, where you've got perhaps questions, answers, etc., and you'd be looking at copying and pasting. And that is one way that you can do this. You'll notice I'm copying from Word, just using Control-C, Control-V. It does pull some of the formatting here, which is something that you likely wouldn't want it to do, especially if, for instance, your correct answer is highlighted. So something that I'd actually recommend you do instead is when you copy and you go to paste, rather than just Control-V paste or right-click paste, you instead paste without formatting. In this case, that would actually be Control-Shift-V. And because I am copying and pasting these possible answers, I again still have to teach the system what the correct response would be, and I have to decide whether or not I want my question answers to be randomized for each student. So that's one way that you could do it. As I mentioned though, we do have a custom tool that we've been working on, and so I'd like to demonstrate that now as well. The tool can be found inside the Bringing Assessments Online course shell that you have access to. It provides some examples at the top of how your questions should be formatted. And the way this tool works is that it really wants to take plain text from you, and what it does is it converts it into a format that can be imported into the eConestoga quiz tool, not just bringing the text over and putting it into the right spot, but also teaching the system what the correct answers are at the same time. So currently this tool supports multiple choice, multiple select, and true and false. And the way that you would format the question is by, again, setting up a plain text document of some kind, separating each series of questions and answers with a space, and using the asterisk symbol to indicate what the correct answer, or in the case of multi-select, what the correct answers are. So what I recommend you do is open up your Word document with all of your formatted questions and answers, and also open up something like Notepad. Notepad's going to allow you to get a nice plain text version that the custom tool will not have a problem with in terms of formatting. So you can take your Word document, even multiple questions at a time, and paste them into the Notepad. You'll notice things like highlighting are lost, but that's okay, because the way that we want to indicate the correct answer is by putting an asterisk in front of that response. Now, something that I'll point out here with enumeration, the paper version of the test that you may be bringing may have had numbering built in. And that makes sense to keep people on track, to be able to easily refer to answers if students have questions, that sort of thing. But one of the advantages of the online quiz tool is that it can shuffle questions, and that's nice for security. Generally speaking, we're not going to want to include question numbers with the thing that we create online because the order is subject to change. However, something that actually is built into this tool, the custom tool, is the ability to remove enumeration. So I don't have to actually go out of my way to delete the numbers in front of every question here. So now that I've got this nicely formatted plain text version, I'm going to highlight all of that and copy it. And I'm going to open up that conversion tool, which can be found in the Bringing Assessments online course shell. And I'm just going to paste that text into the plain text input area. Because I said in this case we have these numbers that we want to strip away, I'm also going to turn on the remove enumeration option. I can set the default points per question or score per question and default difficulty as well. So what we end up doing is converting this to CSV. I didn't get any error message there, and so I'm confident that this output, which I can see, but more importantly I can also download, I'm confident that that's something that the eConestoga import tool is going to recognize. And so back in the question library where we were creating questions manually before, we now have a file that we are able to use for this import button. When I select upload a file, you can see here that it does specify it's looking for a CSV. So you would find that CSV file wherever you downloaded it and provide it to this tool. We see a green check mark. We can actually see that it recognized that there were 4 separate questions. And again, that was because of the spacing that we left. I can review those questions. I can actually preview them here. So we can see that it pulled the question text, it pulled 4 separate responses, and it also knows what the correct response should be. So I can say import, and you'll see here that it has now created 4 multiple choice questions. If I were to go into any one of them and edit, we can see how it has pulled the question text separate from the answers, and it's checked that box indicating the correct answer. Now from here, I could decide that I wanted to randomize, for instance, for any of those questions that you've imported. And I like these examples. I chose these for a reason because previously we discussed that it can be difficult to set up fill in the blank or short answer style of questions because you have to try to teach the system what all the correct variations might be, spelling, etc. You'll notice for this question, it was still set up as multiple choice, and the blank was basically just built into the question text. This way, the student's able to select the answer that fits without having to worry about spelling. So I like this as a faster way and a more reliable way to bring some of those fill in the blank or short answer style of questions online.